Before we go, I just want to ask about President Biden. He is saying he's going to run again in 2024. Will you support him?
You know, if the president chooses to run again in 2024, I mean, first of all, I'm focused on winning this majority right now and preserving a majority this year in 2022. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think if the president has a vision, then that's something certainly we're all willing to entertain and examine when the time comes.
That's not a yes.
Yeah, you know, I think we should endorse when we get to it. But I believe that the president has been doing a very good job so far. And, you know, should he run again, I think that I think it's we'll take a look at it.
Okay.
So AOC did not endorse Biden. Now, let me break this down and explain very clearly what is and what is not happening here. Now, you have some progressive media outlets like Kyle Kulinski over at Secular Talk talking about, you know, this was a good thing. I mean, look at Dana Bash watching all of this, and she's just dumbfounded that AOC is not walking in lockstep with Democrats on this. No, Kyle, you're the one that's kind of an idiot on this, that you don't actually understand what's happening here. AOC is not going out on any limb. She's not being a maverick here. She's not, staying true to her so-called progressive ideals. She has been told, as has the rest of the party, by Nancy Botox Pelosi and the other party bosses, that Biden gotta go. Biden gotta go. Biden gotta go. Biden gotta go. But apparently, Robert De Niro did not get that memo.
What about, I know that you have a fair amount of emotions about politics. You have thoughts, of course, first. Those stir emotions. I know you have some anxiety about the state of politics in the United States. Having a new guy at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, have you sleep any better at night?
Yes. He's, he got us into calm waters. That was always the idea.
Yeah.
He's doing a very good job. It's a tough one. I couldn't imagine. I could imagine how difficult it is. I have decisions in my own personal life that I imagine that what he goes through is 100 times that.
Yeah.
And so, no, he's doing the best he can, and we got to get through a bad period.
Biden's approval rating is below 39%, and that's what's being reported to us, but it certainly is far worse than that in actuality. When you break below your floor, you have a ceiling and you have a floor. When you break below your floor, that means you have lost your rabid base. The people that, no matter how off the charts you are, they will stick with you through thick and thin. And Biden is going into territory that has never been gone into before. I mean, this is a strange new world in the world of politics, that Biden appears now to not have a floor, which means his base, the people that he could always count on, they are abandoning him. And you know why, Bobby De Niro, they're abandoning him? Because he's not doing a good job. He did not steer us into calm waters. In fact, if there's a hurricane on the horizon, he turns the boat directly into it. He never misses a hurricane. He absolutely loves the fact that there is all of this chaos out there, and somehow he's sitting there trying to spin it as it's wonderful. Why, Biden has done a good job. On what planet and false reality do you have to be living in to look at what we're dealing with right now? Inflation that is absolutely killing people. Look at what they're paying at the gas pump right now. Look at what they can't find at the grocery store. And then when they do find it, how much more they're paying for gas, groceries, rent, utilities. You understand? Things are not good right now. We've got an immigration problem at the border. Mothers can't find formula. We have violence and chaos in the streets. There is nothing calm about anything going on. And this is not about he's doing the best he can. Sorry. Now, when AOC said he's doing a good job, she doesn't mean it the same way De Niro does. See, De Niro means it. AOC is taking the lead from the Democratic Party bosses that here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep talking about that Joe Biden has done a good job. It's just sad he hasn't been able to get his message out there. It's just sad more people don't understand the wonderful things he's done. But what they're going to do is they're going to use that as their pivot point. That Biden has been a good president, but unfortunately people have kind of rejected the messenger. But the message of liberal policy and ideology, it's fine. Because see, first and foremost, you have to protect that. You've got to protect the liberal policy, the liberal dogma. See, because to admit that Biden is a failure is to admit his policies have failed. And since we know that Biden doesn't really determine most of these policies, his handlers do, his puppet masters do, i.e. the raging liberals within the party do, it is their ideology, their policies that have actually tanked and are bankrupting the country. See, there is a part of me that believes that there is a part of Joe Biden that if he were free to make his own decisions, we would be drilling, baby, drilling. I really do think that. But because he's got to placate the party, because he's got to placate the Nancy Botox Pelosi's and the AOC's, and because he really isn't fully aware of everything going on and other people are making these decisions for him, you see how big Democrat cities are run. You see their rampant homelessness. You see the out-of-control crime and the basic dysfunction of those big blue cities. Well, this is what we have on a national level now. The Biden administration, i.e. the liberals that make these policies, determine the direction. They have turned the entire country as if America was just an urban blight city. That's what we are right now. Nothing works. Everything's broken. You can't get goods and services on time, or even what you do want, you can't find, and now you got to figure out how to substitute because things you go to the store for just aren't there. And so you're having to drive farther to get things, which you're having to consume more gas, which you're paying through the roof for now with no end in sight. And yet, all of these problems, believe it or not, they're actually very fixable. We don't have to be in this created recession. We don't have to be paying these prices for gas. We absolutely do not. But you see, you can't come out and say the policies are wrong, because then that means the entire liberal agenda is wrong. So what you have to come out and say is Biden's got great policies and people just don't understand, but for some reason they're rejecting him, and even though we like him, we can't endorse him. See, the party bosses have determined now Biden got to go. They know he is a liability for 2024, that he absolutely cannot run again. And so AOC has been told to do what she did. Now, I know there's that moment where, Dana says that's not a yes regarding a non-endorsement. And AOC just kind of sits there with a goofy little grin, which, Jimmy Dore hit this right when he said a softball question like that, and she choked. And she did. She should have been right there, right ready with her response, but she finally got to it, but after she does her typical AOC goofball, just kind of stare like a deer caught in the headlights look. But again, remember, this was a woman who just 2 weeks ago insisted that she had stumbled upon her American Indian roots and that she's actually a Native American, despite the fact she's Puerto Rican. But that's another story, because remember, she's from the part of Puerto Rico that was settled by Jews, and she's actually a Jewish Puerto Rican American Indian. This is the level of delusion and psychosis we're dealing with AOC. So her commenting on the mental acuitive of Obama Biden, yeah, okay. Hate to be that blunt about it, but that's really what we're dealing with here. But Biden's out. Biden is out, and you are hearing more and more. The mainstream media has been given the green light by who? By the party bosses, the powers that be. Go ahead. Start talking about there are Democrats whispering, Biden's got to go. We need change. We need change. We need change. We need a candidate of change. Not only is Biden out, Zelensky's out. Oh, yes, he is. We pushed Ukraine into this. I have talked about this ad nauseum. But things aren't going well in Ukraine. We've given them billions of dollars. We've given them weapons. Some of those weapons are the battalion. And I have to be careful how I word all of this because, YouTube will pull it for misinformation. You can't call them. You can't call them that. You can't call them that. But apparently, they're actually receiving these weapons from the United States and then turning around and selling them on the black web. And what are they doing with the money that's coming their way? Enriching themselves. And with that same zealousness, where when the war was over in Germany, yet Adolf Hitler telling his people, you will burn everything to the ground, you will leave nothing left, you and your children will starve, but you won't give 1 inch to the enemy. And then he offed himself. He took the quick, easy way out and then wanted his people to stay to the bitter end. Because see, right now, the powers that be in Ukraine will not allow Zelensky to sit down at the negotiation table with Putin. And initially, when Putin was ready to do all of that, the U.S. wouldn't let Zelensky. See, here's really what happened. We put a puppet fake government in place. We get them to do our bidding, which we wanted him to push Ukraine to NATO, knowing full well that was a violation of what we had agreed to with Russia. We knew that would finally provoke Russia. A proxy war broke out as a result. We never really had any intention of joining Ukraine in a full-blown war. Now, there were nutcase zealots like Lindsey Graham that were having, wet dreams at night hoping for that. You even had media pundits, even on the conservative side, like Mark Levin, wanting that. But this was really about a couple things. This was Biden's paying back Ukraine, or the powers that be within Ukraine, for all the grift money they had given to Hunter that Joe Obama himself benefited from. That money was repaid in the wake of fighting a war for democracy in the tune of $54 billion. But it was to prop up the military-industrial complex, give them a way to receive a whole lot of wealth and sell a whole lot of arms. But in reality, Ukraine has never been any match to go up against Russia. Never. And we knew that from the beginning. Although now you have news reports saying Ukraine wasn't giving us the full report, i.e., Zelensky wasn't telling us the truth. That's all code for Zelensky, we're done with you. The billionaires that needed their money got it. The military-industrial complex that needed their war got it. The right money has changed hands with the right people. And now, Zelensky, we're done with you. And they won't care that when Putin finally steps in, he's going to get exactly what he wanted. He will get the provinces within Ukraine that he wanted. Ukraine will not be part of NATO. And this is over, and it's been over. And all of the news reports you heard that Russian troops were not up to this, and they didn't know why they were there, and they really couldn't fight this war, and they really weren't what we thought they were. That was all bullhock. And I've been telling you that from day one. It's all been bullhock. Initially, I'm sure some of the Russian troops didn't want to be there. Understand what's going on here. This is like a civil war. I mean, seriously, it's kind of like a civil war. These were all part of the Soviet Union at one time. And so if the nearest analogy I can come to is the American Civil War. I mean, you had at first the North was getting beat. Now, why was the North getting beat? We had the industry, we had the cities, we had the progress, we had the technology, we had the modernism of the era. How are we getting more? Well, for two reasons. At first, the North wasn't really all that into the war. You know, if a bunch of cotton choppers, want to go be their own independent country, let them. That was the attitude of the North. And you also had the idea, it was like brother against brother. Can you imagine mothers who had a son in the Union Army and a son in the Confederate Army? Praying that somehow God would protect them both. So there was, that's what's going on over here now. You have a country that was at one time part of Mother Russia. So those soldiers are there. They feel like they're killing their own countrymen. They don't want to do that. And the reason this war has taken as long as it has, because some people were saying, like the Lindsey Grahams, the special friend of John McCain. I wonder what kind of special friendship they really had behind closed doors. The reason this has taken so long is not because Russia was ill-equipped, that they're all show, no blow, they don't really know what they're doing. Yeah, baloney. They didn't want to lay waste to the country. They wanted Zelensky to not unite with NATO and to stop bombing provinces within Ukraine, which were sympathetic and wanted to remain in ties and fellowship with Russia. Do you know while the Ukrainian army has been fighting Russia, they've still been bombing their own states and provinces? Makes you wonder if some of these cities that have been hit and some of the death carnage we saw in the news, was those Russian bombs doing that, or was it Ukraine killing their own? Because they dared to stay loyal to Russia. We are so propagandized. But now that all of this is out, and it is definitely understood by everyone and world leaders everywhere, and even former U.S. military advisors and leaders and former politicians and dignitaries are all saying it's over. Now the Biden White House, they got to create safe distance. They got bad intel. All the things we blame on the intelligence community. 9/11 happened because of bad intel. There were no weapons of mass destruction because of bad intel. Bad intel in Libya, bad intel. How many wars have we been involved in that everything then gets blamed on bad intel? Makes the American taxpayer say, then what the heck are we funding all of this intelligence for? Because it's all bad. No, it's not. They knew exactly how bad Ukraine was going to get beat. They knew exactly what Russia was capable of. We used Zelensky to poke Russia. We are going to try to cripple their economy, destroy their energy industry, to then sell our natural gas to Europe. We can't sell it here and benefit us, but we would export it. None of that worked. I told you the other day, the ruble is now trading stronger than the US dollar. We did not hurt Putin. We actually have emboldened him, and we have elevated him, and now his economy is much stronger than our economy. And I'll bet his people are paying really cheap nothing prices for gas. And I'll bet they don't have a baby formula shortage. So Zelensky is on it. We're about to throw him under the bus, and we're going to blame the failure in Ukraine on Zelensky lied. He didn't tell us everything going on. He was doing a lot of propaganda and crying crocodile tears for help, and it's not our fault. But nonetheless, Zelensky's out. You're going to watch the media coverage now begin to change because that's what the Democratic Party bosses want. It's what the deep state wants. It's what even the rhinos want. So the coverage is going to change. We've been afflicted and inflicted by all of these sanctions, and our economy has tanked. But make no mistake, Zelensky's gone and Biden's gone. And we're focused on these midterm elections and holding on to the House. You know, we can't talk about 2024 now. So AOC was not leading dissent. She was not doing something maverick. She was told to do this. She is a bought and paid for sellout. She likes to write across her rear end, tax the ricks. And it's not really because she's making a political statement. She wants everybody to look at her derriere. She is absolutely obsessed with herself. That interview on CNN began with her being asked, you know, a year and a half ago, you were concerned that you might be killed or raped. And I promise you, she was probably more concerned about being raped than killed. She has a fascination that every guy in this country wants her sexually. This is AOC. She is Amber Heard. She is Amber Heard. She is that nut job over at the Washington Post that was constantly screaming, you know, sexism with all of her colleagues and wanting to gaslight them and get them all fired. And now finally she's been fired. This is AOC. She is the modern psychotic feminist nutcase. That's AOC. And some of you liberals and progressives better figure that out, because if you don't, you're going to let the AOCs really hijack your party. And you men, no matter how progressive you are gone because you are in the way. And it doesn't matter how much they may like you. When they decide they're done with you, they will flip on you. Just like they're going to flip as a whole party on Biden. And Mr. Kalinsky. Yeah, Kyle, make no mistake, my friend. She's no maverick. Whoever the Democratic Party decides to put up as the nominee, she will be 100% on board with endorsing. She's gone to Washington to stay and make a career of it, and she's going to play the game just like the rest of them. She's no maverick. And Biden is done.